So I'm going to bring up impact fees again. Knights Beach Resort. When we visited the park, we were told by Marlene, or I should say confirmed by Marlene, that the impact fees were a fee that's paid to outside of the park. In other words, to a conservation authority, to a government body, or whatever it may be. Painful to have to put out 20 grand, but you know, it's a fact of life. Now, part of the suit against me is saying that Marlene never said that. So since I can't prove beyond a doubt that Marlene said that, we can prove it in a different fashion. Now, the first thing that was said was that they never even used the term impact fee. Oh no, we never called it an impact fee. And yet, you know, as we pull up documents here, bear with me, I apologize. Oh, you know what, I didn't. Oh, yeah, I did. Oh yeah, here they are. Here we are. Sorry, I apologize. So, you know, take a screenshot of that. It says impact fee on there. Take a screenshot of that from Barry Yellen, and it says impact fee on there. So right now, people are saying, so what? That point I just made was simply the fact that the term impact fee was used. So it can't be disputed by Knights Beach or their council that the term was used. The term was used. Now, I've spent my life in the building trades, renovations, and so on. So I'm not a developer, and I don't have to pay development fees and so on. I have had to pay building permit fees numerous times, which are not impact fees. They're just strictly fees paid to your local government for a building permit when you're constructing something. So, but being around these fees and around construction, I'm quite aware of the term impact fee. It comes up numerous times. I also have a number of friends who have built cottages over the years, waterfront cottages, and you know, and they've discussed the impact fees that they've had to pay and so on. And that's the most common term of an impact fee. The other terminology for impact fees that is used nowadays is development fee. So when you buy a new home, a development fee is lumped onto that home. It's what your town or city is supposed to be using those dollars to either to put in fire services and landscaping and boulevards and curbs, and it's to go towards future maintenance of those roads and so on and so forth. It's a development fee, it's a tax. As opposed to an impact fee, which tends to be, you know, you could call it a tax because it's going to a government body or a conservation authority. So you could call it a tax, but it's a little different in that it's supposed to be allocated for shoreline preservation. That's where impact fees are most commonly used, is for waterfront. And it's a very common term for a fee that is paid to a government body, not a fee that is paid to a private individual or to a company. That's not the term to be used for an extra charge. So we have the proof that the term was used. And so then we move on to, well, so what? The term was used. Well, again, if we look at, for example, this is from the Munk School of Global Affairs, which is at the University of Toronto. And this is a paper that they published on the development charges across Canada, an underutilized growth management tool. And within this document, it reads, Development charges, also called development cost charges, which is what I was just talking about, development charges in a neighborhood, nowhere near the water, just a neighborhood, development charges for fire services, among other things. Capital cost charges, off-site levies, or development impact fees are financial instruments used by municipalities to pay for the growth-related capital costs associated with new development or redevelopment. So that's from Monk. Now we can go a little more mainstream. Wikipedia. If you do a Wikipedia search for impact fees were first implemented in Hinsdale, Illinois in 1947 to finance a water treatment plant expansion. The Hinsdale Sanitary District President John A. McElwain implemented a tap-in fee of $50 per new residential sewer line. An impact fee is a fee that is imposed by a local government. We go to Investopedia. Impact fee. What is an impact fee? Municipalities assess impact fees on property developers to pay for infrastructure improvements. So the point in that is the definition of an impact fee. So if you are going to charge, if Knights Beach, let's be specific, if Knights Beach is going to charge my friend Karen $20,000 and call it an impact fee. So let's just say I had the conversation with Marlene verifying that this was a fee that would be paid to a conservation authority or whatever, and she agreed with me. But let's just say we can't prove that conversation. It would be a safe assumption for Karen and myself to think that this impact fee is, as just described or defined, an impact fee is paid to a government body, not an impact fee paid to Knights Beach Resort. So, where we go from there, what I've been told when I brought up those arguments in the past by, among other people, Robert Wasserman, who I believe, I've never confirmed it, I believe he's a family member of the Knights Beach Washermans, but he's a lawyer, and he said, we can call the charge anything. It doesn't matter. We can charge it what we want. Call it what we want. Charges can be called anything they want. Now, if we get into this very long document, which I won't do in this video, from the Government of Canada, false or misleading representations. This is from Canada.ca, the Competition Bureau Canada. Resources, false or misleading representations, and deceptive marketing practices. This is a long, what do I have here? 20 pages that I've printed off on this one, so we won't go through all that. But when we go through this document, you will find numerous clauses in there that using terminology, false terminology, for a product is illegal. And again, Government of Canada Competition Bureau, false or misleading representations and deceptive marketing practices. And again, this is showing that what I'm claiming is this just isn't right. It's not right. Of course it's not right, but it's also not legal. You can't tell somebody I'm going to charge you $20,000 for something that is not what you're claiming it is. And essentially that $20,000 just went right into the washerman's pocket. It didn't go to the Long Point Conservation Authority. It didn't go to the region of Haldimand or the province of Ontario. It went into the washerman's bank account. But the washermans allowed me to believe, and the washermans through their representatives allowed me and my friend Karen to believe that the impact fee was doing just that it was going to be going off to a conservation authority. Now, Karen had done a lot of research on trailer parks, and trust me, I know, because I heard about it all, and I got to drive to a couple of them with her. And Knights Beach was in the upper end price-wise and definitely not in the upper end visually, quality-wise. But it did have, for Karen, what it had going on was proximity. It was close. It avoided northern Ontario traffic and so on. So it had lots of positives, but it also had lots of negatives. But it was balancing. It was a balancing act, figuring out which one would be best and worst for her. And part of that was, of course, cost. And looking at the annual cost at Knights Beach, it's in the upper end of parks in Canada, or parks in Ontario, sorry. And so you have to take that into account. Well, how much is it going to cost each year, and is it worth that amount? So should I maybe, at that price point, look at this other park or that other park? So if we took the impact fee as being a Wasserman fee, that changes the whole outlook on Knights Beach Resort. The thinking was you're going to pay premium rent to Knights Beach Resort, and additionally you're going to put up this $20,000. But that's going to the government. It's a waterfront thing, and so I don't like it. But had you told me right up front, no, it's just a fee going to the Wassermans, I'd say, well, no, hang on, I got to stop and think about this for a minute. And I can tell you now, in hindsight, that the answer would have been no. But stopping to think about it and say no, it just makes the park way too expensive. Of course, what we get from a lot of people is, who even cares about all this? Well, we care about it because the simple fact of they misrepresented themselves on what they were supplying. And this is not the only subject. This is not the only thing they misrepresented. But they misrepresented on that one, and I'm just showing you how and why that was done. Now, the other thing to bear in mind, too, is for this $20,000 going to the Wassermans, you get nothing for it. You already pay premium rent to be on the water. But this gives you, what this does is essentially just gives you the privilege to pay premium rent on the water, and you don't get any guarantees. So if you're going to put out $11,000 or $12,000 annually in rent, if you only stay for 1 year, then that's $32,000 in rent. And people say, well, why would you only stay for 1 year? Well, it's not a matter of why would you only stay for 1 year. It's a simple matter that you have no guarantee that you can stay more than 1 year. And the lawyers come back and say, well, they've never said they would throw you out after 1 year. And say, well, it's funny because, on the one hand, the lawyers like to say, if it's not in writing, it doesn't mean anything. But on the other hand, they want you to accept this $20,000 and that you could put over say a 10-year period. Let's say you're going to stay in the park for 10 years, and you can say, well, it's really $2,000 a year. So when you amortize it in that sense of it, it's an easier pill to swallow. But I don't have anything in writing that says I'll be there for 10 years. And you're not going to give me anything in writing. And that's what the lawyer's always going to come back to. We said you can't have attic rooms. We didn't put it in writing that you could have an attic room. We didn't put it in writing that you could have that deck, or we didn't put it in writing that you could have patio stones. And yet when it comes to the $20,000 fee, all of a sudden for $20,000, nothing has to be in writing. So it's, pick a lane. So that's where we're going with this, and that gives you a little bit, not complete, but a little bit of an idea of the paperwork I'm using. And we can say, well, when we get it in front of a judge, the fact that I said bad things about the people at Knights Beach Resort, this impact fee doesn't change the fact that I said bad things about these people. And that's absolutely correct. It does not. But what it does do is it explains why I said bad things about these people. So stay tuned. There's going to be a few more of these. We'll talk soon, and have a great day. Oh, and if you, I just came back from the hospital, got my second vaccine. If you haven't done it yet, get it done. It's important.